Have you ever just wondered what makes a relationship really last versus one that just fizzles out? We're told so often that it's all about power dynamics, about control. But what if I told you the real secret is actually hardwired right into our biology? Today, we are going to pull apart those old, outdated cultural scripts and look at the science that shows us a path from manipulation to real, genuine, lasting connection.
Okay, so for centuries, this has basically been the playbook for power. The whole idea is that you get respect by making people afraid to lose you. A partner who's a little uncertain, a little insecure, well, the thinking goes they'll be more obsessed with you, more devoted. And honestly, this is the core idea behind so many of those dark psychology tricks you see all over the internet today.
But really, is that the foundation you want for decades of intimacy and trust? I mean, is it? Well, according to our own biology, the answer is a huge, resounding no. In fact, following this old, outdated blueprint might be the very thing that completely sabotages love in the long run. Let's dig into why.
So much of the conflict we see in relationships comes from this one simple thing. We're basically running old software on new hardware. We're following these social scripts that just aren't relevant anymore, and it creates these massive, painful misunderstandings.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Historically, marriage was, let's be honest, a pragmatic contract. It was about financial security and survival, especially for women who often didn't have a way to earn their own money. But today, things have completely changed. Women are more educated, more financially independent, and so the goal of partnership itself has shifted. It's not about survival anymore. It's about finding that deep, companionate love and emotional connection.
And this number right here, wow, it shows you the real consequence of that shift. Today, women initiate roughly 70% of divorces. And that's because they're no longer financially trapped in a relationship. They're free to leave when that core modern need, the emotional synchrony, isn't being met. The foundation isn't economic anymore, it's emotional. That's the new game.
So, what happens when those emotional needs go unmet? Well, couples often get trapped in something called the disconnect cycle. It's this painful pattern where their very instincts to connect actually wind up pushing them further and further apart.
Right at the heart of this problem are our attachment styles. Just think of them as our unconscious programming for how we reach for connection, especially when we're stressed. And one of the most common, classic collisions you see is between a preoccupied style, someone who anxiously needs closeness to feel safe, and a dismissing avoidant style, someone who needs distance and space to feel safe. See the problem? And this creates an absolutely devastating loop. Partner A feels that distance, gets anxious, and starts to chase for reassurance. Well, that makes partner B feel smothered, so they withdraw to get some space. Here's the kicker. Neurologically, this whole dance triggers the amygdala, the brain's little fire alarm, the fear center, in both of them. And the second that happens, forget it. All those higher level functions like empathy and understanding, they just shut down. You're not partners anymore. You're just two nervous systems stuck in survival mode. So when you're feeling that pain, it's easy to see why so many people turn to what feels like a quick fix, the mind game trap. They start using these manipulative tactics, often dressed up as dark psychology, thinking it's the only way to get back some control.
Tactic number 1 is basically weaponizing absence. By going silent or pulling away, the goal is to create this giant void that your partner's mind just scrambles to fill. All that mental energy, all that replaying of every conversation, that's supposed to turn into an obsession.
This goes right back to that Machiavellian idea we started with, that fear is a better motivator than love. The whole point is to make your partner so terrified of you leaving that they never ever take you for granted. So your value isn't in your presence, it's in the constant threat of your absence.
And then there's this one, variable rewards. This is where affection and attention are given out completely unpredictably, just like a slot machine. You pull the lever and you never know if you're going to get a reward. That inconsistency literally trains your partner's nervous system to crave that next hit of validation. It's not building a partnership, it's creating an addiction.
So here's the bottom line, the most crucial point. While these tactics might, and I say might, create a short-term chase, they are absolute poison for a long-term relationship. And why? Because they systematically destroy empathy. They turn your partner into an object you have to manage, not a person you're trying to understand. Real love is built on being able to read and respond to each other, and these games are designed to short-circuit that exact skill.
Okay, so let's shift gears. Let's move away from the flawed psychology of manipulation and look at the actual biology of a lasting bond. Because it turns out our brains and our bodies are actually designed for connection, not for constant conflict. You see, in the early, heady stages of love, our brains are just flooded with dopamine. That's the chemical of motivation, of reward. It's what fuels the chase, the excitement. But you can't run on dopamine forever. A real, long-term bond shifts its chemistry. It starts to rely on beta endorphins, which create this feeling of deep security, of calm, of a kind of euphoric stability. Mind games just keep you stuck in that frantic dopamine phase, and they prevent your brain from ever making that crucial shift to the beta endorphin bond.
And check this out. Our hormones literally adapt for partnership. Studies show that men in committed long-term relationships often have lower levels of testosterone. Now, this isn't a bad thing. It's an evolutionary adaptation. It's linked to increased empathy and emotional vulnerability, which actually makes them better partners and fathers. So biologically speaking, true strength is the ability to connect.
This all leads us to the single most important skill for a lasting relationship. It's called mentalizing. It's basically our brain's ability to mind read, not in a magical way, but by accurately understanding a partner's real intentions and feelings. It's about guessing why they seem quiet, not just noticing that they are. Those manipulative games that create mystery, they are designed to destroy this very skill. A healthy bond is built on making yourself understood, and mentalizing is the biological antidote to those games.
So, if the end goal isn't control, then what is it? Well, the absolute peak of human intimacy is a state where two people actually start to operate on a biological level, almost as a single unit.
It's called biobehavioral synchrony. It sounds complex, but it's incredible. Researchers have found that in these deeply bonded couples, their physiological states literally sync up when they're near each other. Their heart rates start to beat in rhythm. Their breathing patterns align. This is the actual science behind that feeling of being on the same wavelength. And it's a state you can only achieve through safety and empathy, never through fear.
So this entire journey we've been on, it really boils down to one profound change in how you see things. It's about moving away from that feeling of constant conflict, of power struggles, the sense that your partner is some kind of opponent you have to beat.
And shifting to this, us versus the problem. When you're in synchrony, you are on the same team. You stop fighting each other and you become two brains and two bodies working together as one single system to solve whatever life decides to throw at you. That is the biological endgame of love.
Which really just leaves us with one final question to think about. In your own life, in your own connections, are you following some pre-written manipulative script that's all about control? Or are you brave enough to just put that script down and start writing on a blank page together, based on the real biology of love?